Well, we wanted to reach out to the community more and make the community here more aware of what we're doing here. And so I had seen on TV that WSBT Channel 22 has a program called Our Michiana. And they said, let us know what is your favorite place in Michiana, and we will come and let others know about it. And so I agreed to be that contact person, and I sent them an email talking about our Christmas at the Bonine House, our Underground Railroad days, and saying this is my favorite place in Michiana is the Bonine House.
Like a living history and the story of the Underground Railroad in this area, because in Cassopolis and in Vandalia, Michigan, there were integrated communities that existed where black and white had equal privileges and lived together and worked together in a country where slavery was still legal.
Well, this house was the focal point of a great Quaker settlement that was located. There were several meeting houses in the area, and the Quakers were leading the freedom seekers and leading the fight for abolition. And this was a particularly very strong abolitionist area. And there were two lines actually that came through this area in Cass County. One came from the south, and it was called the Quaker Line, and it came through settlements of Quakers that were distinctly Quakers, that were sticking their necks out, their property, their lives, because there were laws against it. And Levi Coffin, actually, who's been considered the president of the Underground Railroad, he was funneling the freedom seekers up through here.
Add to that for many people in the area, this is their own history, their own personal history, the history of their grandparents or great-grandparents that were involved in the activities that went on here in the 1840s, the 1850s, and 1860s. And because of the history of cooperation in the face of danger, this is a story that is good for the whole country to hear about.
Okay, excellent. This is great. What's that? When you talk about educational value and what you have here and just the learning experience when people come through the house, and tell me about that. What are they learning? What are they seeing? What type of response do you get when you have tours or events or the things that you guys do?
I think the main thing that freaks people out a little bit is these were just a bunch of people who considered themselves fairly ordinary farmers. They were taking some risks, but they'd been doing it for a while and nothing had happened. So they'd kind of forgotten how dangerous it was. And then when the Kentucky raid came along and they had to take a stand, they didn't have time to hedge. They had to either, do or die. They did the right thing. And everybody did the right thing, not just the Quakers. There were a lot of free black people involved. There was the support of the Chain Link Baptist Church. It could have gone really different. And that is what gets so exciting, because to feel like you're back in that moment, what would you do? And when we're here, people understand that.
Why do you think they were so successful? Why do you think it lasted for so long? They were able to help so many people. I mean, what was the success? What was the reason for success?
The three things. One was the network of Quakers. That was really strong. Chain Link Baptist Church provided incredible support that other places on the Underground Railroad didn't have that kind of support. They were really the first oldest black church in Michigan, so they were solid. And then the last thing was Ramptown. Ramptown was unusual as a settlement. There were maybe 100 people living in Ramptown. They had their own cabin. They had 5 to 10 acres. People on the Underground Railroad didn't experience that very often. So I think those three things really made Cass County the hotbed of abolitionism
The Underground Railroad Society of Cass County was founded in 2009, kind of an outgrowth of a bunch of community activists and historians, and that got together, talked about this area, the experience, especially the African American experience in this area, and through that, the Bonine House became part of the conversation. At one time, it was thought this wasn't part of the Underground Railroad because of the tower, which is Second Empire, 1860, 1880. But it turned out part of this group came and looked at it. They were experts, architectural experts. They say right away, you could tell this was Greek Revival. So it was right at the time of the Underground Railroad. This house, you probably heard, originally Greek Revival, and then added on after the Civil War. So the Bonine House became part of this conversation. Then it was pretty well falling down. It was in sad shape. So we had a community meeting over at the local college. We invited the community saying, can we afford to save this house? Can we afford not to? And we had no idea who would show up. It was standing room only. It was an overwhelming vote of support to save this house. We looked at the old histories. We found out, wow, this is an amazing story. It's not just the Bonine House. It's the whole story of the Underground Railroad here. So that's when we created our driving tour. We now have a 14-site driving tour of many Underground Railroad sites in this area. And then after acquiring the house, of course, we had to decide if it even could be saved. Well, actually, before we closed, we did that. We hired Neil Civic. They're a structural engineering firm. They came out. This whole corner was totally compromised. The foundation was just about gone. And they said, yes, it could be saved. And then we hired Building Restoration out of Kalamazoo, and they proceeded to save it. They actually took down this whole corner. And you can go on our website. Our website it's just a wealth of information, urscc.org. They took down this whole corner, literally to the ground. They rebuilt it, and they faced it with original brick. So this house will stand forever. And that was the first thing that we did, acquiring the house, and we've kind of not looked back.